All right, let's dive into one of the fiercest rivalries you'll ever see. India versus Pakistan. On the cricket pitch. And we're going deep using, Netflix has this documentary, The Greatest Rivalry, India versus Pakistan.
Okay.
And we found a couple of podcasts with some pretty sharp reviews, so we're using those too.
Interesting. So just to be clear, we're not just talking about the sport itself.
Right. Oh, no. This goes way beyond runs and wickets. This is about history, culture. What happens when a sport, captures the soul of a nation,
Right. And that's actually what struck me about this documentary, the way it shows how these matches, they're more than just games to people.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like this symbol of national pride. This way for both countries to show their identity on a world stage.
I think everyone has a team or a sport where it feels like that. Have you ever felt that way about a team you've supported?
Oh, for sure. Like during the World Cup, it felt like the whole country was riding on every single match. But even that doesn't compare to the India-Pakistan thing.
No, not at all.
Oh, this is different. And the documentary does a good job of showing how that weight of history, it just hangs over everything, especially because of the 1947 partition.
Right.
You can't really understand the rivalry without understanding the partition.
And I don't think most people do. Can you explain that a little?
Well, the partition in 47, it wasn't just a line on a map, It was like this huge, painful division. It tore communities and families right down the middle, and it left scars, deep ones, on both sides.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So the documentary, it highlights how that trauma from the partition, it's like it became part of the rivalry. Like every match is a battle for something bigger, for supremacy. Almost like they're trying to replay history and get a different ending.
It's like the cricket field becomes the place where they work out all the unresolved stuff from the past.
Yeah, exactly.
And then on top of all that, you've got political turmoil, things like the Kargil War, the Mumbai attacks in 2008. The documentary doesn't shy away from any of it.
Right. And it's a good reminder that the real world, it always impacts the game. No matter how much we want to keep them separate, you can feel that tension every time these teams play. It's like this undercurrent.
Like the stakes are incredibly high. Always.
Exactly.
And there was this one moment in the film that just captured that feeling perfectly. When Shoaib Akhtar silenced Kolkata's Eden Gardens. Have you been there?
I haven't, no.
It's like the Coliseum, but for cricket. Fans are so passionate. Anyway, so Akhtar, he dismisses Sachin Tendulkar, who was already a legend at that point. This is back in 1999.
Wow.
Can you imagine? The whole place goes silent. You've taken down a legend.
It must do something to you, that kind of pressure. Either you rise to the occasion or it crushes you.
For sure. And they actually talk about the mental side of it a lot in the documentary. Like Sehwag, he said he talked to psychologists before a Pakistan tour.
Really?
Yeah, back in 2004. And get this, his way of dealing with the pressure was singing.
What about it?
Singing. Wow. Can you imagine? What do you think? Could that actually help? Or is it just a distraction?
I don't know. I've never tried it. But it's interesting how everyone finds their own way to cope in a pressure cooker like that.
Yeah. And speaking of finding ways to get an edge, the documentary really goes deep on the tactical stuff. Especially this thing called reverse swing bowling.
Oh, yeah, reverse swing. That's fascinating.
They have Waqar Younis and Sourav Ganguly explaining it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So reverse swing, it's basically about manipulating the ball, the shine on it, to make it swerve in the air in a really unpredictable way.
Like a magic trick almost.
Right. And the Pakistani bowlers, they were masters of it. Waqar Younis, Wasim Akram, legends. The documentary does a really good job visually showing you how it works.
It's not all cutthroat,
Yeah.
There was this one thing that they showed, really got to me. The Pakistani team, they lost this match in Chennai in '99. And the Indian fans, they gave them a standing ovation.
Wow. Even after a loss.
Yeah. What do you make of that?
I think that says it all, really, about sportsmanship. That even in this rivalry, with all its history, there's still this deep respect for the game. And for each other as players.
It gives you hope, right?
It does. It really does.
Yeah, it does. And the documentary has these little moments where players from both sides talk about the friendships they made. Like going to dinner together during a tour, or even visiting each other's families. It makes you think, could that kind of connection on a personal level help ease some of the political tension too?
It's a huge question, isn't it? Can the bonds you make through sport, can they actually overcome those big political and historical divides?
Yeah.
It seems like the film, it suggests it's possible, but at the same time, it's very honest about how this rivalry, it's so tied up with those tensions. It's complicated. There are no easy answers. What do you think?
I don't know. It's a lot to take in.
Sure.
I mean, I loved all the archival footage and the interviews were so powerful.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking, man, I wish they'd talk to some of the other big names. Like Sachin Tendulkar, Rahul Dravid, Kapil Dev, Imran Khan even.
Oh, for sure. That's a missed opportunity, especially since the whole thing's only like 105 minutes long.
Yeah.
It feels like they're trying to cover so much, and they end up just skimming over some really key moments and perspectives. Like, they barely even touch on the 70s and 80s, which is when this rivalry really started to take shape.
Right.
And they completely skip over Sachin Tendulkar's 194 runs in the 2004 Multan Test.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a huge moment, not just for Tendulkar, but for the whole rivalry.
I'm not even a diehard cricket fan.
Yeah.
And even I felt like something was missing. Like, they call it the greatest rivalry,
Yeah.
but they leave out some pretty big stuff. But I will say, they did a great job with all the old footage.
Oh, absolutely.
It really brings those old matches to life. And the editing is good. Those montages, they really pull you in.
I agree. That historical footage is amazing. But then they go and use those dramatized reenactments and the photoshopped headlines.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean.
It takes you out of it a little. Like, why not just let the real story speak for itself? It feels a bit over the top.
It's true. But, even with those flaws, I think it still captures the human side of things really well. Like that scene with Sehwag and Akhtar at the Wagah border.
Yeah.
These two rivals just standing there together, a moment of quiet, really powerful image. Makes you think, maybe there is hope for these two countries.
That scene is incredible. It's like the whole point of the film boiled down to one image. Even with this intense rivalry, there's still that shared humanity, that connection that goes beyond politics and history.
Right.
It makes you wonder, can those moments, those little connections, can they grow? Can they lead to something more peaceful?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Right.
Can sports actually bridge that gap between two nations with such a difficult history?
It's a tough one. And the documentary, it's not trying to say it has all the answers, but it does make you think about the role that sports can play in starting conversations, building understanding, even maybe leading to some kind of reconciliation. It's not a solution, obviously, but it could be a start.
I think it's a conversation we need to have, especially now with so much division in the world. Maybe sports can remind us that we're all human, that we can find common ground, even when it seems impossible. It's a powerful thought. And I think the film gets that across. It makes you think about sports in a whole new way, doesn't it? Like how it can bring people together, even start conversations like this.
It really does. And I think that's why this documentary is so interesting. It's not just about cricket. It's about the relationship between these two countries, all the history, the politics, even the things that connect them culturally.
It's like the cricket field becomes this stage for the whole India-Pakistan story.
Exactly. You see all the passion and rivalry. But then there are these moments, these little glimpses of connection, of shared humanity.
And it's those moments that stick with you. Makes you wonder if sport can actually, change things, if it can heal old wounds or lead to a more peaceful future.
Big questions, no easy answers. But the documentary does give you hope, right?
Yeah, it does. That even in these really intense rivalries, there's always the possibility of, understanding, connection, a love for the game that's bigger than borders and politics.
Right. And I think that's a really important message for everyone. We've gone through a lot in this deep dive. The highs and lows of this rivalry, its history, how it affects both countries, all the complicated emotions that come with it.
Yeah.
But in the end, it's a story about people, about that human need to connect, even when things are tough.
It's been a fascinating journey. Thanks for joining us as we explore this rivalry. We hope it's given you a new way of looking at sports, how they can bridge divides and help us understand each other, and maybe, just maybe, create a better future.
Absolutely. So next time you're watching a match, any sport really, think about the stories behind it, those connections between people, the potential for peace that sport can inspire.
Yeah, keep exploring those ideas, keep questioning, and keep that spirit of the game alive.